What's cracking, guys? Omar Isuf here, back with another video. In this video today, I want to talk about underrated lower body movements. Everybody gives so much love to the squat and deadlift, and no doubt about it, they're crucial. They should be the core component of your leg training. But for two reasons: one, if you have nagging issues, let's say you got some lower back pain, I suffered from some SI issues, you have to get a little bit creative. But two, there's some areas, some assistance movements that you should be doing to help kind of activate your glutes, your core, that bracing pattern, and doing a unilateral work in order to make sure both legs are firing correctly. For that reason, I'm going to talk about these three underrated leg exercises that you should incorporate into your training. The three are Bulgarian split squats, I would also say elevated reverse lunges, and then lastly, the goblet squat. The subject of this video today came upon me because, as you guys probably know, I've had to deal with some SI issues, which means the spinal loading, so doing deadlifts and squats. You got to find workarounds rather than having the bar always on your back or picking something off the ground like a barbell. As such, I had to think outside of the box when it comes to developing leg strength, when it comes to trying to increase the size of my quads, my glutes, and my hamstrings. And these are going to be what I'd call spinal loading friendly, which means that if you have a little bit of the achy back or whatever, let's just say your hip is bothering you, these are probably a good, not only substitution, but movement to regularly involve inside your training cycle. Let's talk about all three of them. The first one that I want to talk about is the Bulgarian split squat. This is kind of two things at once. Unilateral exercises are vastly underrated in my opinion. We kind of all have imbalances. Our hip anatomy is most likely not symmetrical, which means our left hip socket and our right hip socket are not exactly the same. But if we look at Bulgarian split squats, what's very cool about them, once again, being unilateral, is that they allow a deep stretch when it comes to the hip flexor. It actually helps prepare you to squat deeper. It's also great for the quads, for the glutes. It's one of those movements that when done properly, it can help you just try and engage, fire a weak or let's say lazy glute. And for me personally, after not doing them for a while, when I finally started incorporating them, some of that glute med pain that I'd get just from day-to-day lifting heavy tended to go away because I was now giving proper attention to both legs, one at a time rather than doing it bilateral. This is a movement that you can overload. I recommend doing higher repetitions, somewhere along the lines of 10 to 15 repetitions per leg. You do it on that leg, and then you switch sides. But once again, give it about 4 weeks before you're using a load that is actually challenging for you. But you'd be surprised, try this out, because you have to make sure that the knee is lined, or aligned, I should say, with the foot, knees over the foot, proper alignment, glute out, so you're actually using the glute. You're probably going to get a pretty good pump. You'll feel it the next day. So Bulgarian split squats to me are a staple because not only do they help with mobility, getting into a deeper squat, but they help activate the glute in a single leg movement that will transfer over to your bilateral moves for the squat, for the deadlift. So they're a staple. They help things out. Moving kind of along with that same notion, we're going to talk about another unilateral exercise, the reverse lunge that's elevated. Why elevated? Well, it allows, once again, a little bit more of a range of motion, but this is another great glute exercise. When we evaluate the squat, the glutes are actually kind of underrated in terms of their involvement, that hip extension, compared to, let's say, the hamstring or just other muscle groups. Glutes are incredibly important. For the reverse lunge, once again, what's cool because it's unilateral is not loading the spine. So even the glute hip thrust, which I think is an amazing exercise, I've talked about it before, because you're using a bar kind of right on the hip crevice. Here, if you do have nagging lower back pain or just something's going on down there, hips feel a little wonky, that's probably not the best movement to be doing if things feel a little jacked up. So reverse lunge that's elevated allows you to do the same thing, trying to target the glutes, make sure that your body is tall, you're going all the way back. It also helps stretch out that area, preparing you once again for dynamic movements like the squat. So they're twofold unilateral movements, and they make sure once again that both sides are kind of firing equally. You'll tend to notice on unilateral movements that you're weaker on one side versus the other. I'm definitely guilty of this. Or one side just feels less stable, and that's probably the side that you experience pain, those problems, those symptoms that tend to occur. And that's the area, or that's the side that you should begin on first. So the reverse lunge that's elevated is another great glute quad builder. Once again, after about 4 weeks, you'll find progressively overloading the movement. You'll find a weight that's challenging for you, and you will get a proper stimulus, training stimulus from it. The last one I want to talk about, something I've talked about before that's near and dear to me, if you really kind of want to get a squatting movement down pat that features anterior loading, which is just easier to teach bracing, would be a goblet squat. The good thing about a goblet squat, once again, because you're holding it in front of you, it kind of helps teach that shelf position when it comes to the front squat. It also teaches, like I said before, because it's an anterior load, bracing. It's easier to teach a bracing mechanism from the front than it is from the back, because when the weight's on your back, you're kind of leaning forward, hips shoot back, you're maybe compressing right here with the spine a little bit. Instead, with the front, when you load it with a goblet squat, you got to keep the elbows shoved up, chest tall, which will allow you, once again, to remain, I should say, a little bit more upright on the squat, but teach that proper bracing pattern. So when you use heavy weight on your back squat, it's intuitive for you in order to brace that area. Fun fact about the goblet squat, though, once again, doing higher repetitions, you can actually load this with a weight that will be challenging. For myself, when I actually do working sets, it's anywhere between 120 to 150 pounds, and you will definitely feel this. People always talk about great core exercises, and I do think, doing core-specific movements, so like a pull-off press, ab roller, ab rollout, has its place, but also doing it in an isometric way, so you're balancing the weight, and you have to use your core in order to brace that weight. You'd be surprised if you haven't done this before how sore your core will be. And really, that's kind of the topic of this video today. Great assistance movements that are vastly underrated that you probably don't see in a lot of sports-specific programming. When it comes to powerlifting, or when you see a lot of powerlifting programs, they kind of just have squat, deadlift, some variations, so like maybe a sumo deadlift. It's a little bit more complicated than that when it comes to trying to have a complete training system, a complete training ideology that you follow in order to keep your body healthy, strong, work on weak areas. Well, guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching the video. To once again summarize these 3 movements I really would urge you to incorporate inside your training program. The first would be the Bulgarian split squat in order to work on that dynamic mobility, as well as learning to properly activate the glute, getting the knee aligned with the foot, which will help transfer over to the squat. The second would then be the elevated reverse lunge, which will allow you to activate the glutes a little bit more. It's a deeper stretch, making sure you keep that chest tall. And then lastly, once again, that goblet squat. Anterior loading is easier to learn bracing. It's going to allow you to remain more upright on the squat. It's going to allow you to feel that bracing sensation when you move on to the back squat. So those are the 3 movements that I think don't get nearly enough love and attention, and movements that everybody should be doing. Guys, that is the video. That is all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you like the video, I'm looking right at you, okay? If you notice, I did not include any calf exercises. Like the damn video. Get it to what? 5,000 likes? 15,000. This guy is the most unreal. 5,000 likes, okay? Let's get to 5,000 likes. I actually have another part of, I don't want to call it quite a series, but there's a companion piece to this video of other movements. These are the first 3. Like the damn video, and I'll be seeing all you guys, my rascals, in that next video. Peace.
Eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your fucking vegetables.